Hello class, today's lesson is 4-3 in your textbook and it's titled How to Relate Transformations and Congruence, so how these relate to one another. So the first thing we're going to talk about is a rigid motion, alright, and this is a transformation, so we're changing a figure, but it still is going to preserve its length, angle measure, and area. So this is different from if you have a picture and you enlarge the picture or you shrink the picture. That's not what this type of transformation is. This is preserving a figure's length, its angle measure, and its area. So it's going to be exactly the same, but just be moved around or changed a little bit. So something that I want you to keep in mind is that if any combination of translations or reflections or rotations can be used to move one shape onto another shape perfectly, the figures are congruent. Okay, so these three things, translations, reflections, and rotations, are types of transformations that we're going to talk about right now. So that first one is called a translation. Okay, and when you hear that word, I want you to just think that the shape that you see is just going to simply move its location. That's what we're going to write down to help us remember. So right now I have this orange pentagon, and if I was going to move its location to, let's say, just straight down here, okay, then I'm going to have that shape, and I'm simply just going to move it down there. And it's going to look exactly the same going up straight. It just has really changed from being up high to now down low. Okay, and that's all that a translation is. The shape looks exactly the same, it's just moved. The second kind is called a reflection. And when you think of a reflection, I want you to think of a reflection in a mirror. Okay, and how the shape would look if it's being reflected in a mirror. So in this case, I kind of have this parallelogram, and this dotted line is going to be my mirror. So if I was going to have this parallelogram reflect over the mirror, it would look just like that. Okay? So that is what a reflection is. Okay, is what it would look like when looking into a mirror. The third kind of transformation that we're going to talk about is a rotation. Okay, so in this instance, I have this little purple shape, and we're going to rotate it around this dot right here. Okay, so I'm going to take that corner and I'm going to rotate it around the dot. So when you think of rotation, I kind of want you to think of turning around a point. Kind of like turning a knob. So if I was going to take this shape right here and I wanted to rotate this picture 90 degrees, I would take it and I would rotate it, rotate it, rotate it, rotate it, rotate it. And now it's been rotating around this point 90 degrees. But we know that we can keep rotating it. So if I have it right here, and I kept going around kind of in a circular motion, like turning a doorknob, then I could rotate it down here. You could really rotate it any amount of degrees that you want. So maybe this next time I won't do it 90 degrees. So if I have it right here and I'm going to keep going around, going around, going around, going around, maybe I'll just stop right there just to show that I can rotate it however many degrees I want. And it's really just doing a circular motion around this central point. And that is what a rotation is. Now sometimes you can actually combine two or more transformations. Okay, so in this example I'm going to start with a heart, and let's say first I just wanted to do a translation. So this means I just want to move it, and I want to move it to right here. Okay, so if you were asked to do this, you would have your heart and you're just going to simply move its location. It's still going to be looking exactly the same. It's not going to rotate, it's not going to be reflected, not any of that. Okay, and then after that I want you to reflect it down below. So I'm going to go ahead and draw kind of like my invisible mirror, and I want you to reflect it starting here and go all the way down. Okay? So if you have your heart and you reflect it, it's going to kind of flip it upside down and it's going to end up right there. Okay? See if I can get this down. Oops, on the wrong side. There we go. Okay, so in this case, first I had a translation. And then second, I had a reflection. Okay, so let's look at one that's already done and let's see if we can label what happened to it. So in this instance, it looks like I'm starting here because I'm just going to follow the arrows and I'm going to record what's happening. So from this first one, maybe I'll label it A and B and C. It looks like from A to B, it's being translated. So we'll say for our first step that there was a translation, because it's just simply being moved. And then the second time, it looks like it's being rotated, kind of counterclockwise. So our second step is simply a rotation, and that's it. If this wasn't here, would you know how it turned into C? That's something that you got to kind of think about. What did the person do to make it end up in that last formation? Here's one more example. Okay, this one I have a little triangle, and there's an arrow kind of showing me which direction it's going, and then a little rounded arrow around a dotted line. So first I'm looking, and from A to B, I would say it looks like it's just being another translation. It's just being moved. Nothing else is happening to the shape itself. And then second, it looks like it's being reflected over an invisible mirror. And that's it. Okay, we're almost done. So I'm going to give you an example that we're going to end on. And it's going to be a little bit tricky. Okay? In this example, it says, explain why figure A and figure B are not congruent using transformations. So if this was you and you were given this problem, I would think automatically, well, I don't know, they look like they're the same shape. It just kind of looks like it's flipped and just moved a little bit down south. So I don't know, how would I do this? Well, first I would say, okay, I need to move it over to that direction. And so that would be a translation. Okay? So that makes sense. And they still look like they're exactly the same. So then it looks like it's going to be rotated. I'm not rotated, I'm sorry, reflected around this invisible mirror. So if I'm going to reflect it, let's see if it fits right on top. And it doesn't, okay? We could see that 3 of the sides definitely line up, but this last side, it is not lined up exactly. So as much in the beginning as it may have looked like they were congruent, once I did these transformations and I moved one shape on top of the other, it did not fit perfectly. So that is why they are not congruent. Because I went through those steps, I looked at the translation, I looked at the reflection, but when I put it on top of the other one, it did not fit perfectly. And this is all that you need to know. So come to class tomorrow and we'll be ready to work.